I want to get to your Suns in a second, but I do want to get to the Clippers, particularly Paul George. 41 points, 13 rebounds, 6 assists. Now, we already know how we've been talking about Paul George on this program for the last year, since the inception of Real Ones. How did you feel about his performance tonight? It was one of those things where it was like when Paul George had to take a breather in the fourth quarter, it was, where is Paul George? And not in the not in the negative way. It's like, yo, we need Paul George on the floor. He is killing. He went 15 of 20 tonight. Are we seeing like a new Paul George here? What is going on? What did you see tonight from him tonight?
Tonight was interesting because early in the game, and you could hear it even over the broadcast, you had Van Gundy and Mark Jackson calling for more Paul George. But I thought he did a good job of kind of feeling his way through the game. Early in the game, Marcus Morris was getting off. Boogie Cousins and Reggie Jackson were giving them buckets. And so he kind of sat back and kind of reserved his legs. And you know what I mean? Like, that's a long game to have to score from start to finish. While you're getting that help, I think he did a really good job of kind of picking his moments, getting in, getting out. He had 11 in the first half. And then he did what you expect great players to do when the second half came around and it was time to put the saddle on the back. Like, he carried the weight. Now, it was interesting because he was cooking. Was it game one where him and D Book were just like going at it?
Yeah.
I thought that sitting him to start the fourth kind of iced him. And I made a comment on Twitter about, the only person that could stop Palmdale P tonight was T. Lue. But tonight it was timely. It was good because he was looking a little gassed. He was starting to get it, in his feelings about the calls. And I think sitting him down refreshed him just enough. So, I thought it was a great performance, not just because he scored 41 and had, 12 or whatever boards he had, but because he kind of picked his time and let his teammates help him. And then when he needed to, he did the job that you expect a number one to do.
How aggressive does a star player need to be in a game like this? What does a star player need to do, and how much did Paul, fill that void tonight?
So yeah, it's a number one's game, and so I think, again, to his credit, you got to kind of feel that out, right? Like, if you come out and no one else is cooking, well, then you have to take the reins a lot earlier in that ball game, and then you have to hope, kind of a la Kevin Durant, that you have enough in the tank to carry it, through the finish line. But if you're getting buckets early from guys that are in some instances like Boogie Cousins, you're not used to getting that from, and it's enough to keep you guys afloat, keep you guys with the lead, then, I think you can sit back and just trust that your game is nice enough to flip the switch when the time comes. And it was tonight. And look, Kevin Durant was brilliant. Like, I'm not throwing any shade at KD. He just looked like he kind of maybe ran out of gas late in that game. Like, he didn't have enough people getting buckets. And I think Paul George did a really good job of kind of letting some of those guys have these otherworldly performances, or at least for this series. I mean, Marcus Morris had more points in the first half than he had through like 4 games in the series. You know what I mean? Like, while that's happening, a number one can kind of sit back and bide his time and just kind of keep banking that rest until his number's called. And so I thought he did a great job of that tonight.
How much credit do we need to give to T. Lue on this one, man? Because that's one of the underlying storylines of this postseason, right? Because the Clippers have been probably the most resilient team of this postseason. I know they've been maligned by yours truly, but I feel like whenever you see a team that comes back and is as resilient as this team is in multiple series, I think that comes down to players, but also comes down to coaching and the adjustments. What have you seen from Ty Lue during this postseason and tonight?
T. Lue is as good as there is in the game. Going back to the drawing board, reassessing what happened, watching that film, and coming out with a new fresh take. Tonight it was the zone early in the game. Defensively without Zubats, they went zone a bit. But you also saw offensively that there was a game plan to get that ball into the front court quickly. Patrick Beverley from the start of the game was pushing tempo, like almost in a laughing kind of joke. Like, he was flying up the court when the ball was taken out of bounds to get in the front court, just seeing if they could explore some early opportunities at the rim, get out on the break. And their mindset was hell-bent on getting to the rim. Like, you saw them. It was 58-32, I think, points in the paint for the Clippers tonight. Like, they were getting downhill at the rim. And those are adjustments that the coach makes. That's not just players saying, hey, this is what we're doing tonight. That's what's on your board when you go into that game. Like, these are our keys. They're bullet points that we need to focus on tonight. And so, T. Lou's, as good as anyone. And you're without not only Kawhi Leonard, who might be your best player, but you're without Ivica Zubac tonight, who's been fantastic in this series. And I'm going to keep it a buck, Logan. Like, I ride with the Suns, but I've said this before. This could very easily be 3-2 right now. Very easily be 3-2.
3-2 with the Clippers up 3-2.
With the Clippers up 3-2. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, absolutely. Like, that game was in the bag. Real talk, in the bag. Like, that's a game where I don't know what the percent chance of Phoenix pulling that out was, but it had to be below 2.
Yeah.
And they got it done, So yeah, T. Lue is awesome.
I mean, he's getting a lot out of DeMarcus Cousins. You talked about with Zubac out. DeMarcus had 15 and 2 off the bench. You got Reggie Jackson, man. Reggie Jackson. Is he the best Jackson of all time? Is he? I feel like, at least for tonight, he is. At least for tonight.
For tonight. He's the best Jackson for tonight. He's the best Jackson tonight.
Yo, man, he was balling. He got himself some bread in this offseason. He's for sure. I don't know if he's a franchise cornerstone. He played like one tonight and over the last few games, but plus 21 on the court while he was on the floor. Makes timely shots. Been doing this all series, really. What is it about Reggie? Like, have you been around Reggie? And what is it about him that is just? I don't know. Well, it seems like he's playing not out of his mind, but it seems like a more refined version of what he was in OKC. Right? He's playing more within his role, and he's being exactly that right now. And he's being exactly what a team needs, and is a bit of a refined version. What have you seen from Reggie?
Reggie was a plus 21 tonight. I see Reggie playing free. I see Reggie playing for someone who. Look, Reggie's been telling us for years that Reggie is a number one PG in this league. We're the ones that don't listen. Like, Reggie believes this, so this isn't anything new for Reggie. I went to a University of Miami Boston College game, right? He went to BC, right? Yeah, Boston College game. On the All-Star break. I don't know, when Reggie was in college. Like, I didn't know who was on either one of those damn teams, but I was at home in Miami. I ain't had shit to do. So I went down to Miami Hurricanes, Boston College game. And I shit you not, I sat in that gym with my family, and I was like, who the hell is that? I was like, he's nice. You know what I had no idea but he popped off the page then because he's just got this supreme confidence about himself. And I think that's what you see playing out now. Like, he's had it. But I talk about this a lot with coaches, the marriage between a player's confidence and a coach's confidence in a player can really unlock some cool things. And I think you see that with Reggie right now. He's just doing what he told y'all he could do.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because, I mean, Reggie is an evolved version of himself. And what is it like to feel like an evolved version? He's a role player, and I know you've played in a league. How much is it like when you when you're a rookie and you're kind of figuring things out through your first few years, you're trying to make a name in this league versus when, you made all your bread and you're on the back end. He's not on the back end of his career, but you get what I'm saying, right? Where he is more refined version. How does that feel when you get to that other side of it, right? When you know the game a lot more and you're still playing to all of your strengths. How was that different than when you first get into the league, especially in the postseason?
Yeah, it's a good question. Man, where do I start with that? That's layered, man. That's got a lot of stuff to it there, Logan. I mean, obviously, with the refinement comes a lot of understanding of what's going on out there. And with understanding of what's going on out there comes an ability to operate in those spaces, right? When you're young, you're trying to figure it out on the fly. There's a lot of thinking that takes place. While you're thinking, it's hard to execute, Like, if you're thinking your way through a game, chances are you're behind the play, at least mentally. And then if you are mentally, probably physically. Once that becomes muscle memory and you're in those moments like that, it just becomes that much easier. You're just functioning, in the moment. You're not thinking about what's happening. You're playing the game. But I think, with Reggie, there comes a level, again, of security in who you are and what you can do. And with that security comes a level of confidence, and when that confidence in yourself, again, is echoed by a coach and then there's team success would be the third component in that, right? So you're validated because I believe I'm this guy, coach believes I'm this guy, and we are successful with me being this guy. That's a pretty cool thing because now you're empowered in that role, right? Like you feel like, yeah, this is my shit. I do this. You know what I mean? And not only does coach trust me to do this, but the results say I'm supposed to do this, and therefore the rest of the team trusts this. I got it.
Can you tell the game has slowed down for him a lot more than when he was a rookie or when he was in that OKC time trying to prove himself so much? Do you think that he's just at least for me, I could see that he's in a different phase of his career. Do you see that in him?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I could see that. You know, I never watched Reggie like, you know, with the fine tooth comb like that. So if I'm keeping it a buck, like I don't really know. What I do know is when you're trying to prove yourself, that's a very, very precarious situation to be in, right? Like it's almost like you're walking a really thin line, and that energy, that emotion, that fuck you-ness, if you will, to prove yourself can be really good on some nights. But if you
fuck you-ness is a great word, by the way.
Thank you. I just coined that. Go ahead and patent that. Ringer NBA staff, go ahead and handle that. Jomi, Sasha. But no, if you cross that line, Logan, with just a little bit too much energy, you know, it could result in a catastrophe, right? Like you could just be trying too hard, pressing. Basketball guys don't smile on you because you've become over the top in your quest to prove everyone wrong. So that's kind of that inconsistency that you get with young players trying to prove something, right? Some nights it'll look great. Some nights it'll look like, you know, they're just trying too hard, right? Like they can't just relax and play their role, let the game come to them. And so there is maturity. And I do see him playing different in that regard. But if, you know, I didn't break his game down when he was in OKC, so I want to be fair to him.